Hi there. Welcome back.
Yeah, hi.
This is Behind the Pixel. My name is Will.
My name is Kathryn.
And this is the podcast, an Open Pixel Studios podcast, where we try to bridge the knowledge gap between those who buy creative content and those who make it.
Right.
And we just had an excellent conversation with Kelsey Bracewell. She's the Safety, Education, and Instruction Director at the American Canoe Association. They're a nonprofit in Virginia doing some fantastic work. We've done some work for them over the past 6 years.
You were going into like say 9 years, yeah.
Well, so the thing is that this client has been with us from before we started Open Pixel.
Correct, yeah.
So they've been a really good contact, a really good partner in a lot of different ways, and we've learned a lot from them as a organization.
Yeah. When was the last time you were on a canoe?
When was the last time I was on a canoe? The last time I was on a canoe,
yes,
I fell into the Charles River. I don't even want to talk about this.
So would you say that you weren't paddling safely?
Not at all. Not at
see?
all. Yes.
And so since that was before.
But you know what? I
you
did
met
have my
Kelsey.
life jacket on.
Oh, that's good.
That's well, they tell you you have to have it on. But it's good that I had it because my swimming, it's not that good.
Yeah. Case in point, I think we've learned a lot from Kelsey over the years.
We have.
How to not only paddle safely in the water, but how to just be a good partner in terms of our relationship with her. So
yeah.
So really enjoyed the conversations we've had.
Really excited to get into this one. Please join us along for the ride.
Yeah, and a quick aside here. So this is an interview format, which we don't do all the time. So just to kind of recap very quickly, we have a couple different ways in which we're doing this podcast. The first is we call it BYB as a category, which is sort of before you buy.
Or before you begin.
And before you begin,
pick the B that matters most to you.
Sure. But it's basically educational content around before you even go into the process of thinking about, using animated content for your different marketing channels. Yeah,
and eventually we'll get to more creative mediums. Print is still a thing. People are still doing design work and stuff like that on static places. So we will get into those with other people, which brings us to the next set of episodes, which is a production episode. We're going to start doing production episodes, which go sort of a little bit deeper into what happens when we start doing production and what kinds of questions and things pop up when you're in the thick of it.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then this category that we have right now is our one-on-one interviews with previous clients and potential clients and just people that we've met in our industry, creatives, all over the place, to just have conversations about everything that we've been discussing through the other episodes that we have. Yeah,
usually what I found is they fall into two categories, like conversations and production management and kind of the management side of stuff, and then the creative side stuff. What happens with the medium and how do they utilize the medium in different ways?
Right.
So it's been interesting.
With it. Yeah.
It's been interesting to see. And you'll hear from Kelsey too some of the ways that they're using animation in some of their educational content. So it's going to be really good.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, let's jump in.
Let's go.
Let's dive in.
We're joined with Kelsey Bracewell, who is also here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Going along for the ride.
I'm going to start with this. Can you share with our audience what the ACA does, the American Canoe Association, and what you do specifically at that organization?
Yes, I most certainly can. Thanks, Will. Third time's the charm. Again, I work for the ACA, the American Canoe Association, and it is a national nonprofit that was organized to serve the broad paddling public, people interested in water sports, and we do so by providing education related to all aspects of paddling, every kind of paddle craft you can think of, stewardship and public policy support to protect clean water and paddling environments. And then we sanction a whole bunch of different programs, events, and competitions, to promote exploration and recreation amongst everybody. And we're based here in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is where I am right now. And being the oldest, member-based paddling organization in the country, we have a huge network of volunteers and of local affiliated clubs and organizations, outfitters, and people like that. And amongst that vast population are, families and introductory paddlers, brand new people, all the way up to elite level competitors and racers. And that's due in part to the fact that the ACA is the national governing body for Olympic and Paralympic paddle sports. So we have—
That's awesome.
It's so fantastic to have people that we educate the first time they ever get in a boat, and people who are racing in the Olympics or the Paralympics. So all of those volunteers, all those athletes, all those paddlers bring together a really diverse community.
That's very really cool. It kind of sounds a little bit too like I imagine that like technology is sort of changing a little bit of what types of crafts can be made and what types of hybrid events you can put together. I'm curious a little bit too, because I imagine you do this within your role. So can you tell us a little bit about what your sort of day-to-day looks like and how you're maybe both incorporating, technology and sometimes not technology, being that a lot of the work you do is like out in the wilderness, out in the real world, as we might call it, in the animation side of things.
What is the real world? That's not one of this podcast today. But yes, so as I mentioned, the ACA does so many things, in education and competition and public policy and all these different products and services that we offer. And I happen to be the director of the education department. And so amongst all that community that I described earlier, we have a network of 10,000 or so certified instructors and trip leaders and facilitators that deliver all this programming to the public and to their clubs and to, whomever. And so I work a lot with the curriculum that those individuals use, the classes that they teach, the people they certify, the insurance that they use, all the different pieces that come together, that people that do this just for fun, who volunteer their time, like I said, for clubs, for youth organizations, for the scouts, for whoever that is. And then those who use this as their livelihood, So just as this whole pack raft thing created a brand new community of people, it created a bunch of businesses, manufacturers and outfitters and stuff like that. And so we do that same thing. We try to meet the needs of whatever the industry needs. And so those resources that come from the education department in the past used to be, brochures and pamphlets and photographs and, curriculum documentation, things like that. And we've had the unique opportunity to work with y'all to come out with some online coursework, some infographics, some ads, some all sorts of stuff, because a lot of this experiential learning, the hands-on classes and training that people take is remarkably valuable and hard to beat, but you can't reach everybody all the time. And so having the opportunity to take some coursework online, having the opportunity to watch a video online gives people more, access to the tools that they need to explore this as a potential opportunity to get out there to try a new activity.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I think you alluded to this in our first recording of this that was never recorded. But you're working with a small team, I assume, and you're doing like a lot of things. Can you describe a little bit about how large your team is?
Yeah, certainly. So the ACA has a full-time staff of maybe 9 or 10 individuals, which is not very many for the number of members and the number of things that we do. But I'm really fortunate to have, I like all my coworkers. We jive well together. We're great at teamwork and accomplishing our goals together. And one of the ways that we have been making progress in that area, being able to hire new staff and create new projects is through the work that you and I do together. And in the education department, we apply for some funding from agencies like the U.S. Coast Guard or from other smaller grassroots grant agencies, excuse me. And so one of the things that we do is we produce educational content, like I had earlier described, and the staff all kind of contribute to it. And we talk about all of the things that we want to communicate to the public, the things that we want to serve to our members. And so, for example, one of the grants that we've written for the Coast Guard, their primary interest is saving lives, life jacket wear, and trip preparedness, and all of these critical things that help people have a fun and enjoyable and safe time while they're out paddling, right? And we've had the opportunity to partner with y'all for years now with different bits of animation and a kind of a continuity of these characters and of the things that they care about and the trips that they go on as a way to express how people can engage with this sport. And that's been a great time. And of course, with my staff, developing it all together. I feel like our personalities are in it too.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely sounds like a very open and collaborative process that you have with your team, which is something we jive with a lot in all the work that we do.
Absolutely.
I'm curious if you run into any particular, not necessarily barriers of entry, but sort of barriers maybe in knowledge or understanding of why animation might be the right medium to use for the particular type of education that you're trying to bring to your community. Are there any challenges that you've run into in sort of explaining the need there?
Most certainly. Yeah. Well, I think that in general, a lot of different barriers to creating this resource or creating any resource really is sometimes just lack of understanding, right? Myself or, my supervisor or my teammates, don't quite understand what this means or why it's valuable. But then sometimes else you run into funding constraints, certainly working at a nonprofit where a lot of our operational money comes from grants or comes from donations or comes from someplace else. You have to make, kind of cost benefit analysis, if you will, on where your money goes and how it can be best used. But I think that the beauty in utilizing the services that y'all have provided to us, which again, over the years have been progressive and have been so much fun, is that let's say in the past, all we were able to do is share some photos or share a video that somebody took on an amateur camera, right? Which is more cost effective, but you realize a month later that you made an error, or that you need to go back and reshoot some things, or that you left out this thing. And that's, ends up being twice as expensive. Or you hope that your models that you used for your videos or your photos didn't get a haircut or didn't, that they're still available, so that you can show the same person doing those same things. And then also, animation is fun and it's colorful. And again, it's quicker to fix if you happen to find an error or two, but also it engages better with children and with families and, with adults, that this is all supposed to be fun, right? This does not have to be a strict classroom, write an essay kind of thing, but people can learn this way. And it doesn't exclude anybody because you don't have to be a certain color or size or height or body shape. You can represent everybody, or they can see themselves in this fun little game or this fun video. And it's just fun. And it helps people understand these concepts just as well, if not better, as some of the previous methods that we've used in the past.
Yeah.
Nice.
It makes a lot of sense.
Do you have any, and this is not in our question set, but do you have any data around that? I'm just curious if there's something that you're measuring in terms of what kinds of things do you measure when you're figuring out if the education piece is working? And we can cut this if you don't have that answer, but I'm just curious about it.
I have some. Yeah. And I think that, so the most recent product that you and I worked on is an online course, and it's animated, and it teaches people how to plan for a kayaking trip and what to do if you fall overboard and all these different things, right? Not only can we track them.
I was just going to mention it could have been useful for Will at that time of going overboard.
Thanks for bringing that back up.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Right, Will, please go back and retake the online class, read all of the supplemental materials.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have the opportunity now to measure the number of people who complete that class, right? And it has a couple of quiz questions built in and stuff. We can figure out which questions people answer incorrectly the most often. It kind of will show us trends, in the industry or of the public that are taking this. Where is there an education gap, right? So that's fascinating to know. You've also produced some videos for us in the past. Of course, we can tell how many people have watched them or interacted with them, which is really cool. Because in the past, let's say you put up a poster somewhere or a sign, at a beach. If you're going to go kayaking here, wear your life jacket, or don't do this, don't do that. It's really hard to measure the effectiveness of that. And so just the advancement of technology in general allows us better data, and analyzation of all of that to see how people engage with it, what they're missing, what they're loving. And so I don't have those numbers on me at the moment, but I think that generally speaking, we can tell that people live online these days. And so I hope to take advantage of that and educate them while they're here on the internet, and hope that this inspires them to go turn off the phone or the computer for a little while and get on the water.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. As two people here that always need to get out more often. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we built the podcast too, is because it got us out of just staring,
our computers
staring at
our
our
home.
staring our screens. Of course, we're staring at you on a screen as well. So, and the people here are also staring at us on a screen. But it does at least give us some form of community outside of just staring at the work.
Definitely, But that's really interesting.
So I do have another question for you. So we work with other nonprofits, and we're sort of in the process of getting more nonprofits to work with us. And one of the questions I've had was, how do we educate them before they get to our door so that they feel ready, so that they feel a little bit more? When the ACA came to us, they open arms, like took a leap of faith with us as an organization. So what should other nonprofits know when approaching sort of the medium, like animation, for example, or any type of new communication that you're trying to do? What advice would you have for them?
I can admit, when we first came to y'all, I didn't really know what I needed, but I knew I needed something different than what I had. And that seems really cerebral and kind of out there in space. But I think that, y'all having multiple conversations with me over the years, trying to explain to me what it is that you offer, showing some examples, or y'all have taken so much effort to learn about, my industry, my work, and what ACA does, to speak to me in relevant terms as much as you possibly could. And you have never gotten frustrated, or at least you never expressed your frustration to me when I didn't quite understand what you were saying. And so I think that in some nonprofits, because they have been so monetarily constrained, they haven't looked at a lot of opportunities to do new things, or certainly things they don't understand, or certainly things that might cost more money than they're used to. And so doing your best to articulate what you can offer, but also asking them leading questions and trying to say, imagine this, if you used animation as a way to communicate that. And I think also generally speaking, just telling people to create a possibility in their mind. They don't even need to know exactly what it is, but what is the harm in asking and digging into that and doing some research and saying there is something out there that is perfect. It just doesn't exist yet. And y'all are remarkably talented, and you've reached into, every kind of tool, or you find contractors for the stuff that you can't do yourself. You bring all the resources in, and you've worked so closely with us to create things that we think are perfect. And so I would say to those other nonprofits is, don't be afraid to take a chance and just ask all the questions you can. Ask for an example, or go find an example of something you kind of like, and just continue that dialogue, because you're never going to find it if you don't look.
That you bring up such a great point, because for some reason, as you were talking, it reminded me of situations where people are going to buy a home for the first time. And when you go into the house, you start to see I can't see beyond the paint color that's on the wall. And so I can't possibly see what this could look like as my own home. And so the realtor has to kind of explain these are the possibilities of the home. And it's giving me a lot to think about here, because I've never made that analogy before, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah. One of the things that sticks into my mind, and this is something that our past podcast interviewee, our past guest, Mike Connolly, was talking about, is that animation is a weapon. He described it as a weapon, and I was like, oh, that feels dangerous. And so, but in another way, what you're kind of describing is using animation for the educational canon, right? If you're gonna spread all this education around, you might as well do it in a fun and exciting way through this crazy medium that maybe you don't understand fully and how it's made, but you can still utilize that weapon in a bunch of different ways.
That's very true. I'm curious too, in kind of exploring the same idea a little bit further. I want you to maybe imagine with us the time when we first started working together.
Which is a while ago, I think.
We were trying to debate. Yeah. I think it was at least maybe 7 or 8 or 9 years ago. I think
it was before we started Open Pixel.
Correct.
You've been sort of part of
you've been part of our journey for a while. Yeah. But so kind of thinking back to that and sort of applying, knowing what you know now in this moment in time, like, what do you wish you had known about animation or utilizing the medium of animation for all of the goals that you have for storytelling in a way?
Yeah, well, I think I would take some of my own advice that I just said to other nonprofits, which is to have more willingness to try. And again, I'm not an artist in any fashion at all, but I think I remember several times I've like tried to sketch something out and sent you a photo, or I tried to find something online that was similar to what I wanted and sent you that, and so it's just having more patience, I think. I mean, y'all work remarkably fast. I don't mean it in that context, but I mean patience in the process, because we both have learned so much along the way, but a lot of people are afraid of things they don't understand. And that fear stops them from progressing, or they automatically get frustrated in the first week or two that they can't figure it out. You don't understand what they're saying, and they give up and they're going to go someplace else, or God forbid, they backtrack to something they do understand, but they can't measure the effectiveness, or, they have proven less than effective in the past. So I think that for us is just continuing to dream and continue to think of new possibilities, or to take advice from y'all or from others who have seen something they liked, or they have an imagination that's bigger than mine, and just taking a moment to sit in that and to say it's possible. Because over the years, excuse me, things have taken a long time, or I don't speak the same language. I am not a graphic designer. I'm not an animator. I don't, I'm not a huge consumer of YouTube videos or of other things. Like me personally, my experience doesn't have to jive with y'all's for us to be a good pair.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. Yeah.
That's a little that's a little profound. More profound than I thought it was going to be.
There you go. I'm curious how you went about the process of like finding animation as the source of the medium that you were going to use to tell your product. Like, did you search for like, and what was it about like going to sort of any animation studio versus like maybe one that hyper specialized in paddle safety as a thing? Like, was that something that was a requirement for you, or were you just like, we need to explore, like what sort of criteria did you look for in searching for that type of work?
Got you. So I think way back in the day, we were looking to make educational videos, like YouTube videos for children. And so we looked at animation just as a better way to connect with them. Rather than, here, kids, watch these videos of adults. It's hard to relate. You're not that strong or that tall or that whatever. Your mom won't let you do that thing, whatever it is, right? And to the best of my knowledge, there wasn't anything like that available. Like, I didn't know where else to look. I didn't even have an example. There weren't any caricatures, or there weren't any pictures or anything that I found that struck me as what I wanted to use. And I think that I found 3 or 4, organizations or companies that did those kind of services. But the way that y'all communicated with me and some of my other coworkers at the time was just so friendly and welcoming, and oriented on listening to what we needed, even when we weren't able to articulate all the things that we needed. And then of course, those products that you made those many years ago, those products being so well received, we stuck again for another year. And just the way that we have built this relationship amongst the 3 of us, or sometimes 4 or 5, depending on how many other staff were involved, you've just been impressed with all the way around. And you pick up the phone every time that we call, and we schedule meetings to check in on various deliverables, and you change things that we want changed, and you explain to me things I don't understand. And, I love the opportunity to write, reviews or give feedback to y'all on how we're working together. And I love some of the like holiday gifts that you send. And I think of you all the time when I have needs for new projects. And it's just, it's been a great 8 years. And I'm not going to lie, I have not, ever since we have been working together, I have not done research on other providers. I've stuck with y'all the whole time. I didn't even bother looking at other places.
Well, we really appreciate that. I mean, likewise, we haven't looked for any other paddle sports types of organizations.
Yeah, I don't
because
think
we
so.
know this is the one. This is the one. Yeah. No, I think there's something to that idea of that relationship where like the level of sort of communication and openness, it goes both ways. It's a two-way street for sure. Like we've learned so much over the years that when we started in animation, I wasn't anticipating to teach kids how to paddle safely in the water through a video game. Like that was a crazy concept to me, but it was amazing. And I think there's something magical about having the ability on both sides to be able to embrace education as part of the process. Because I think when you come into it being like, I know everything, I've got this confidence level that it just, I think it takes away from the process a little bit. So coming in being like, yeah, we don't know anything about boating and paddling, so please teach us.
Very little.
Made a huge difference. Yeah.
I'm totally a better paddler today.
Definitely.
For all the courses, obviously, that we've put together, but it's been great.
I think the reason that we have worked so well together is because any business, right? Y'all's, mine, all these things is about that relationship, and it's about belonging. Right. So y'all were welcoming of my ideas, and I feel like my ideas are safe here, that y'all help me grow the thing I can't understand or I haven't tried yet. And that kind of concept, I would go into the public as well. ACA, this is a member-based organization. We want you to be a member and feel like your concerns are heard here, that your voice is heard here, that your community engages here, that you can find the classes that you need here. You can find a competition if you want to race here. All of those kind of things. Is that it doesn't matter what state you're from or what country you're from, that we offer something that you like and that you find others that are like-minded, and so that we meet your needs in all those same kind of ways. And I think y'all embody that exact same concept in the way that you do in the industry in which you work. And so I think that's why we get along. We kind of do the same thing, even though they seem remotely different on the surface.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a great
we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a question here around how do you want people to engage and plug into ACA and get involved and get learning, right? Especially from the education side.
Just to give you a sense of people who are listening, it's not just in America. It's people in Brazil. It's people in Laos. It's people in
all
Australia.
Over the world.
We have a sort of a larger audience now. I didn't realize that until I looked a couple of days ago and started seeing
on that side of measuring
there's
things.
Folks in Florida, there's folks in Montana, there's folks in Oregon. So there are places that shout out to all of you for listening. But you guys know so this is a great organization. Tell us more about the ACA and how people can get involved.
Yeah, well, our website is americancanoe.org. It's pretty darn simple, but just like the online paddling safety class that we've developed together, there's a lot of stuff on our website that is absolutely free. Try it on and see if you like it. And take a look at the different videos, the different comments that we perhaps have on our social ACA paddle sports. If you want to see what other people have to say, see the programs that we're putting on. And it's about the people. It's these relationships, just like we were talking about. You can see yourself in the people who are racing. You can see yourself in the people who are going on these expeditions that are organizing cleanups of their local river, and having a great time doing it. So if you have any questions at all, you can contact us right off the website or send us a message on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. We're a small staff, but we are mighty, and we are people. We want to talk to you and see where it is you might fit into the community or create a brand new space if you can't find one you like yet.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate both the kind words that go both ways, and especially taking your time to talk to us, communicate with us.
And doing this 3 times. I just got to tell our audience here, we've done this 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
So
each better than the last. So yes, I think we'll close it off there. But thank you so much for your time
and your effort.
Your multiple times, your effort, and just for being here with us. And for always just being an awesome partner. We love you every time.
Yeah, well, it is mutual.
Back at the beginning. Here we go.
Just for our audience to understand what's happening right now. We've tried doing this 3 times, and we're here. We're doing it.